I feel like I want to cry.
Why?
Just because it's like, it gives me anxiety. Sometimes I'm just like, it makes you really like analyze just like where you're at. And then I'm like, sometimes like, what am I doing?
So was taking his last name a given? Were you positive that was going to happen, or did you think about that for a while?
It was a given. Yeah, it was just a given. It wasn't a thought.
There's certain patterns to break.
And you think choosing bad partners is like a genetic thing?
I cannot handle and be around you when you're just a bitch. Your words have meaning and they come.
From the outside, this looked like the kind of love story people only dream about. A whirlwind romance that turned neighbors into soulmates, surprise proposals staged like movie scenes, and a wedding series that looked more like a global spectacle than a family celebration. Add in a baby announcement that instantly went viral, and suddenly, Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker were being held up as the ultimate relationship goals. The kind of couple fans pointed to and said, that's what forever looks like. But the truth about Hollywood fairy tales is simple. The brighter the spotlight, the harder it becomes to hide the shadows. And for Kourtney and Travis, those shadows are starting to show. Because behind every perfectly framed Instagram photo and every glossy TV moment, there's a different version of this story. One that isn't always about passion and forever love, but about pressure, doubt, and the heavy weight of living under a microscope. It's the kind of tension that doesn't disappear when the cameras stop rolling. If anything, it only gets worse. Fans who once believed in the fairy tale are now asking tougher questions. What happens when old mistakes resurface in a brand new marriage? What happens when family loyalty collides with romance? And how do two people hold on to each other when the world around them thrives on pulling them apart? For Kourtney and Travis, the cracks are no longer invisible. Whispers of jealousy, resurfacing controversies, and the unrelenting pressure of keeping up appearances are beginning to tell a very different story. One that's messier, more complicated, and far less picture perfect than what's been sold to millions of followers online. So as we peel back the layers of their romance, one thing becomes clear. This isn't just a love story. It's a test of loyalty, trust, and survival in a world where even the strongest relationships can unravel in front of everyone. When Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker first revealed they were more than friends, the internet practically exploded. After years of living just a few houses apart in Calabasas, their friendship had quietly grown into something deeper. And once the romance went public, the pace was relentless. Suddenly, they weren't just another celebrity couple. They were the couple. The love story everyone was watching unfold in real time. It started with the proposal. On a golden California beach surrounded by hundreds of roses shaped into a giant heart, Travis got down on one knee. The setting could have been ripped straight from a romance film. The crashing waves, the glowing sunset, the dramatic yes that was captured from every possible angle. Within minutes, clips and photos had gone viral across every platform. Headlines called it magical. Fans gushed that Kourtney had finally found her happy ending, and people who had never followed the Kardashians suddenly tuned in to watch a new fairy tale in the making. But the proposal was just the beginning. What came next was a whirlwind of celebrations that blurred the line between personal milestones and global events. There wasn't just one wedding, there were three. A spontaneous Vegas ceremony, complete with Elvis impersonator, a legal courthouse wedding in Santa Barbara, and then the grand finale, an opulent Italian celebration on the Riviera, hosted in a castle and dripping with Dolce & Gabbana designs. Every vow, every kiss, every outfit felt carefully staged for maximum impact. For fans, it wasn't just a marriage. It was a cultural moment. Their blended families seemed to fit right into the narrative. Kourtney's children bonded with Travis's kids from his previous marriage, and social media lit up with posts about how seamlessly the households merged. To the outside world, it looked effortless, almost too effortless. And then came the ultimate chapter, Kourtney's pregnancy reveal. The announcement was framed as pure joy, and the birth of their son Rocky in 2023 was positioned as the crowning moment of their love story. By this point, the couple's image had transcended reality TV gossip and become a symbol of true love found later in life. But fairy tales rarely account for the reality that follows once the confetti clears. And for Travis and Kourtney, the picture-perfect rise was only the beginning of much more complicated challenges. Every love story has a past, and in Hollywood, the past never stays buried for long. For Travis Barker and Kourtney Kardashian, the glow of their whirlwind romance began to dim when old stories, forgotten interviews, and resurfacing memoirs started finding their way back into the headlines. One of the earliest cracks came from Travis's own words. Years before he and Kourtney ever became a couple, Travis wrote in his memoir about finding Kourtney's younger sister, Kim Kardashian, attractive. On paper, it might have seemed like a harmless confession, a throwaway detail in a rock star's larger-than-life story. But in the unforgiving world of celebrity media, details like that never fade away. They get magnified. and magnified they were. Tabloids began recycling old claims that Travis's admiration for Kim had gone further than he admitted. His ex-wife, Shauna Moakler, insisted that there had been inappropriate behavior, even suggesting infidelity during their marriage. Travis denied those claims, sticking to the story that it was nothing more than harmless flirtation, an attraction he never acted upon. But for Kourtney, the distinction wasn't so simple, because when the world is constantly reminding you of your partner's past, and when that past involves your own sister, the seed of doubt is impossible to ignore. What should have been quiet family dinners now carried an edge. Glances across the table became headlines. Rumors whispered online became questions that wouldn't go away. Fans, too, played their part in keeping the fire alive. Social media debates lit up. Was Travis's confession refreshing honesty or a red flag? Did the past really matter if his commitment to Kourtney seemed genuine today? For every fan defending their love, another was dissecting old interviews, screenshots, and claims, feeding into a cycle of suspicion that wouldn't die. For Kourtney, these cracks weren't just about her husband's past. They were about her own history with her sister. The Kardashian family had always lived in the tension between loyalty and rivalry. And suddenly, Travis's past comments became fuel for that fire. What once looked like harmless nostalgia now felt like unfinished business. And for a couple trying to build a future, the past had a way of creeping into every corner of the present. If there's one constant in the Kardashian world, it's that personal drama never stays personal. What happens at the dinner table, in text messages, or behind closed doors almost always finds its way into the spotlight. And for Kourtney and Kim, that spotlight has been especially harsh. Their relationship has always been a mix of love, competition, and rivalry. Fans have watched it play out for years on reality TV. Arguments over business ventures, bitter fights about family priorities, and constant clashes over who sets the tone for the Kardashian empire. At times they reconciled. At times they barely spoke. But when Travis entered the picture, old wounds didn't heal, they deepened. The issue wasn't just that Travis once admitted to finding Kim attractive. It was how that history intersected with the already fragile bond between the sisters. Suddenly, every interaction between Kourtney and Kim was reinterpreted through this new lens. A warm birthday message from Kourtney could be seen as a peace offering. A Halloween costume where Kourtney dressed up as Kim could be read as a playful jab or as calculated shade. Online debates spiraled with theories, with fans dissecting body language and captions like detectives searching for hidden meaning, and the Hulu show didn't help. Trailers teased dramatic confrontations, lingering close-ups, and cryptic voiceovers that suggested something bigger was brewing beneath the surface. Even if the sisters sat down for reconciliation on screen, the editing reminded everyone, this family's unity is always fragile. For Kourtney, this was more than sibling rivalry. It was her marriage colliding with her family's brand. Every time Kim's name resurfaced in connection to Travis, it threatened to chip away at both relationships, with her husband on one side, her sister on the other. And in a family where every conflict becomes content, even genuine attempts at peace felt like part of the show. To outsiders, it was entertainment. To Kourtney, it was her life, her marriage, her family all tangled into one storyline she couldn't control. And while fans debated whether these moments were funny, petty, or staged, one thing was clear. The drama between the sisters wasn't just a subplot. It was a shadow that followed Kourtney and Travis into their marriage, making an already fragile bond even harder to protect. At first, the public displays of affection between Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker seemed almost enviable. Red carpets filled with kisses, social media posts dripping with passion, and hand-holding at every event gave the impression of a couple who simply couldn't keep their hands off each other. For fans, it was proof of true love, fiery, unfiltered, and impossible to fake. But over time, that same passion started to raise questions. When every interaction is broadcast to millions, how much of it is love and how much of it is performance? Were they genuinely lost in each other, or were they trying to convince the world, and maybe themselves, that the romance was still burning as brightly as day one? Behind the curtain, whispers began to grow louder. Sources close to the family suggested that Kourtney was bending more and more of her life around Travis. Everything from her wardrobe choices to her diet seemed to shift in his direction. The transformation was so striking that fans once celebrated it as a glow-up. But with time, that glow began to look more like compromise. Some wondered if Kourtney was losing pieces of her identity to fit more neatly into Travis's world. Even her family reportedly noticed. Insiders claimed that Kim, in particular, felt Travis was pulling Kourtney away, not just from the family, but from the confident independence she had built for herself over the years. To Kim, it didn't look like Kourtney was evolving. It looked like she was surrendering. And while Travis often appeared calm and affectionate in public, there was a growing sense that he held more of the power in the relationship. His career, his schedule, his preferences seemed to set the tone, while Kourtney adapted around him. For a woman who had always prided herself on doing things her own way, this imbalance didn't go unnoticed. So while fans swooned over steamy Instagram photos, the reality behind closed doors may have been far more complicated. Because passion can look like power, and love can sometimes look like control. And when a relationship starts tilting too far in one direction, it rarely ends without consequences. When Travis Barker hit the road again with Blink-182, fans expected business as usual. Packed arenas, screaming crowds, and the return of the punk rock energy that made him famous. But this time life was different. He wasn't just a drummer on tour anymore. He was a newlywed, a stepdad, and the father of a newborn. And unlike in the past, he wasn't traveling alone. Kourtney and baby Rocky joined him, turning what should have been a career milestone into a test of how their marriage could withstand life on the move. At first, the optics looked sweet. Photos showed a rock star blending family with fame, carrying his son backstage, while Kourtney proudly posted snapshots of their family adventure. For fans, it was more proof that they had built something special, a couple that refused to let distance pull them apart. But behind those curated moments, tension was brewing. Touring is grueling even under the best circumstances. Late nights, long flights, endless sound checks, and the chaos of performing in a new city every night leave little room for calm. Adding a baby and multiple children into that mix created a pressure cooker. Eyewitnesses noticed that while Kourtney seemed eager to present a united front, Travis's body language often told a different story. Distracted, tired, even frustrated. Valentine's Day became a turning point. Instead of celebrating together, the couple spent it apart, Travis on the road, Kourtney staying back in Sydney with the kids. Tabloids jumped on the story, painting it as symbolic of deeper issues. For fans, the image was hard to ignore. The once inseparable couple suddenly couldn't even share the most romantic day of the year. Insiders revealed that Kourtney was completely exhausted. Between jet lag, caring for a newborn, and trying to keep up with tour life, she leaned heavily on her inner circle for support. What was meant to be a bonding experience quickly turned into stress and distance. And when the tour wrapped, it wasn't a relief. It was a question mark. Because if life on the road pulled them apart, what did that mean for the rest of their marriage? For most couples, marriage means building a shared home. One roof, one bedroom, one life. But for Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker, things haven't followed the traditional script. Even after multiple weddings, a baby, and a whirlwind of family milestones, the couple has continued to live in separate houses, just across the street from each other. On the surface, the explanation sounds reasonable. Both had children from previous relationships, and each child already had a home, a room, and a sense of stability they didn't want to disrupt. Kourtney has said more than once that she wanted to protect her kids' routines, easing them into a blended family rather than forcing them to adapt overnight. In interviews, she framed it as a thoughtful decision, proof that the couple was prioritizing family harmony above all else. But for fans, the arrangement raised eyebrows. Why would a couple who once couldn't stand to be apart suddenly choose distance? Why, after such public displays of closeness, were they spending nights under different roofs? The answer might have been practical, but the optics told another story. To many, it looked less like stability and more like separation. Adding fuel to the speculation, Kourtney admitted she often co-slept. Not with Travis, but with her daughter Penelope. While she described it as comforting and natural, outsiders couldn't help but wonder, what did that mean for her marriage? Were they really building a shared future, or had the fairy tale already started drifting into parallel lives? Travis, for his part, downplayed the concerns. He emphasized their Sunday family dinners, their routines together, and the bond that kept both households connected. But in a world where every detail gets scrutinized, the image of two newlyweds living apart was hard to spin as normal. So while Kourtney insisted that the setup worked for their family, fans couldn't shake the feeling that it revealed something deeper. Because when a couple that once seemed inseparable now chooses separate homes, the question lingers, is it a sign of maturity or the quiet beginning of a split? From the outside, Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker's story looked like a fairy tale written for the cameras. A whirlwind romance, lavish weddings, and the birth of a child that seemed to seal their forever. For a while, it felt like proof that true love could conquer anything, even the chaos of fame, family drama, and past mistakes. But peel back the layers, and a different picture starts to emerge. Old ghosts from Travis's past, the memoir confessions, the cheating reputation, and the lingering connection to Kim, continue to cast shadows. Kourtney's tense history with her sister adds fuel to the fire, turning family dinners into tabloid material and making private wounds very public. Then there's the dynamic between the two. What looked like passion and intimacy and endless public displays of affection now has some fans questioning whether it's romance or performance, and whispers that Kourtney has been changing herself to fit into Travis's world only add to the narrative. That balance and power in their marriage may not be as equal as it appears. The Australian tour magnified those cracks. Instead of bringing them closer, the grind of travel, sleepless nights with a newborn, and physical distance seemed to push them further apart. Even Valentine's Day, a day symbolic of love, became a reminder of just how separate their lives had become. And finally, There's the reality of their home life. While most newlyweds dream of building one household together, Kourtney and Travis still live across the street from each other. To them, it's practical. To outsiders, it looks like a quiet signal that closeness isn't as simple as they once made it seem. So where does that leave this so-called fairy tale? Are Kourtney and Travis simply navigating the normal ups and downs of marriage, only magnified by the cameras and the Kardashian name? Or are we witnessing the slow unraveling of a love story that burned too bright, too fast? One thing is certain. With this family, the story is never truly over. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Are Travis and Kourtney strong enough to weather the storm, or is this the beginning of the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. Because with this couple, the next twist is always just around the corner.